All right, hi everybody. It's Josh.Basile. It's great to be here today. I wanted to ask Kenny a quick question about capabilities today. Can you? Everybody has chat ability to text, right?
Yes.
If somebody wanted to ask a question, can they say, "I'd like to ask a question," and then you could unmute them?
Well, what we'll do is we'll keep the questions into the chat so people can put it in the chat, and then I can relay them to you as well.
All right. So I'd love today to be kind of interactive. When anybody ever wants to ask a question as I'm going along with my journey, I want you guys to be able to do that. So I'll just kind of start from the beginning. I was injured August 1st, 2004. I was on a family vacation at the beach. I was 18 years old at the time, and a wave picked me up in the ocean and slammed me on my head and shattered my neck. That day, I became a C4-5 quadriplegic. Was on a ventilator for about 4 weeks, then transitioned. I was able to get weaned off of it and went to National Rehabilitation Hospital, where I did my inpatient rehab for 3 weeks. I'm on the East Coast, right outside Washington, D.C. I'm now living in Bethesda, Maryland. But so my journey was one where it's just like all of us with our spinal cord injuries, we're just trying to figure out how to restart this new life with paralysis. It changes everything. Every way that I did things before, I had to figure out how to do it differently. I like to tell people that before my injury, I did things 1 million ways, and now I get to do it 1 million new ways, 1 million different ways, and it's still, as I'm going along my journey, you'll see it's really about figuring out your path forward. But today, I'm really going to dive deeper into my employment journey and how I was able to reach where I'm at. And the big thing with employment journeys, especially disability employment journeys, there's so many different ways of going about it. And we all have so many different levels of injuries, so many different functionalities, so many different community supports, family supports, so many different access to just life and where we're at with our age, with our vocational training, educational training, past work experience. So whenever you think about your employment journey, as I'm talking, I very much want you to understand that there's so many ways of doing this. It's just a matter of figuring out what works for you and developing a custom game plan that you feel comfortable with and that you want to test out and execute. So my employment journey, I was 18, like I mentioned, and so I just only had 1 year of college under my belt. It was always a goal of mine to continue my college education as much as I could to the point of graduating. So that's what I focused on next. I was able to do that through my state's vocational rehabilitation program. Ours in Maryland's called DOORS, Department of Rehabilitative Services. In Washington State, it's the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. So every state across the country has its own vocational rehabilitation program, which has the goal of getting a person with a disability to employment. And everything in between that is their job to get you educated, to get you trained, to get you to have the technological training needed to be at that work, and they will invest in you to get you trained. So my state's vocational program ended up paying for my undergrad. They ended up paying for driving training. At the time, I was doing a lot more exercise, and I was able to get my arms strong enough to drive a vehicle. Since then, I've actually lost a little functionality, so I'm not able to do that anymore. My vocational rehabilitation came to my home and outfitted my office space so that I can have a place where I could do my homework. I got a high-speed scanner. I got special trackball system to control my mouse. I got a mouth-controlled system to use my mouse with my mouth. I got Dragon Naturally Speaking. So I got all these different technologies that allowed me to do my schoolwork at a high level. The high-speed scanner I used to, whenever I had any books, for them to be able to be chopped up and scanned in And so I can do all of my books digitally, whether on my computer or on my iPad. So I did my undergrad, and after doing my undergrad, I did very well, and I was able to convince my vocational rehabilitation program to actually let me apply to law school. And next thing I know, I got into law school, and they actually paid for me for my legal education as well. And I was able to go all through law school without ever flipping a page with my hands because of my functionality. And the next thing I know, after 3 years, I graduated magna cum laude in the top 5 of my class, which was a tough feat in its own, but you know, I treated it very, very seriously, and I worked my wheels off while I was doing it. So then while I was in vocational rehabilitation with my state, I was also able to get into this program called WIPA. And what's interesting about the WIPA program is it allows somebody to figure out how to navigate the employment world before becoming employed. And when I talk about navigating it, so many persons with disabilities have Social Security benefits. And what does that mean? When you try to get a job, you get some gainful income, but Social Security basically is a program where you have to remain poor. You have to have less than a certain amount of assets, a certain amount of income. And with that being said, I was on SSDI. I had to figure out what to do and how to be able to communicate any earned income. And the WIPA program and those services through my vocational services kind of taught me what that could look like. And then afterwards, once I became employed, I was able to get into the Ticket to Work program. And the Ticket to Work program provided an amazing benefits counsel and team that gave me all of my options moving forward. For me particularly, I needed to get into my state's Medicaid Buying program. So across the country, there's 45 different Medicaid Buying programs that exist. Basically, in 1997, Congress passed a bill called the Balanced Budget Act, and in 1999 passed the Ticket to Work Incentive Improvement Act. And both of these pieces of legislation basically said that we know people that are on Medicaid and need community supports, especially with significant disabilities, are not going back to work. So in order to allow them to get back to work, they basically created these legislative pathways for states to design programs to allow persons with disabilities to work within their state and to keep their benefits. And that's why it's called Medicaid Buying. And there's usually a premium attached where you pay a specific amount of money and you buy into Medicaid with a disability. In my state, in Maryland, it's the max you have to pay is like $55. But other states have created sliding scales that actually allow you to earn more, and the more you earn, the more you pay into the system. So I always think of it as work more, pay more, or earn more, pay more. And it's a system that I believe is really, really fair, because the more you earn, the more you should contribute to the system to contribute to your care. And luckily, usually when I talk to different groups about disability employment benefits, I usually say how much their Medicaid Buying program needs improvement. But the truth is Washington State has the best program, recent program in the country. You guys have passed recent legislation in 2019 that lifted income limits, meaning that you can earn as much as you want once you're in the program. And it also lifted the age requirements, where before, at the age of 65, if you were in the program, you had to retire, which for so many of us with a significant disability, that's not feasible to retire at that age because of our care needs and our costs and everything associated with that. So what I love to say about Washington State is you guys have the most incredible program, which means many of you that are interested in work, you should work, because you have a program that will support you, allow you to earn, to allow you to save assets. So Washington State, which is called the Apple Health and Workers with Disabilities, Health for Workers with Disabilities program, is incredible opportunity for workers with disabilities in your state. One of the interesting things, so in my state, if you have more than $10,000 in assets in your bank account or in cash, you get kicked out of our Medicaid Buying program. But in Washington State, it's not that. You guys can, as much as you can earn while you're working, you can continue to keep those assets, and which is known into an independence account. And those independence accounts basically are looked at separately from a Medicaid system of what are known as countable resources, countable assets. So this is an incredible program that you guys have to really earn as much as you can, choose a career path of your choice, and to work as hard as you possibly can, and to provide for yourself, provide for your family, and provide for your future. There's so much more that we can talk about when it comes to strategies of navigating vocational rehabilitation programs. So a lot of people have worked with the vocational system and have absolutely loved it. Others have absolutely hated it. And so much of it comes down to your caseworker. So the trouble is that people sometimes get stuck with a caseworker that might have 250 different clients that they're serving. And your case ends up getting put on the bottom of the stack, the middle of the stack, and ends up being forgotten. But there's strategies to get your case up to the top. And those strategies are weekly communication or bi-monthly communication, where you just reach out, keep them updated on how you're doing grade-wise, what your educational pursuits are, your vocational training, any updates on job searches. Just being able to have that contact and those touches and those communications allow your case to rise to the top. Another big thing is going through your state's vocational services and checking off every single one of the programs and services that can benefit your life, and getting as many of those services to help you. The more complicated your case is, the more likely it's going to be looked at by that person, and the more likely you're going to be provided services to actually benefit you. So when I was injured and first met with my caseworker, I went through every single program and service that they had and asked, I'm curious about this. I came in with questions. We talked through it. Next thing I know, I've been able to benefit so much and not have to do it alone. And you know, when I talk about not doing it alone, there's no reason for you to try to figure this all out. I love saying this. There's no point to reinvent the wheel. There's people like myself that are job mentors, or people that are employed or have gone through vocational rehabilitative services, and talking with them about their experiences, how they've done it. It's just the more that we can communicate as a team, the more we don't have to do it alone, the more we can learn from each other. I started Spinalpedia.com, which is now the world's largest paralysis video mentoring network in the world. And the whole idea behind it was, you know, not having to do it by yourself. Whenever I see somebody else with a spinal cord injury doing something, whether through a video or in life, it kind of kicks me in the butt to say, Josh, you can do it too. So with Spinalpedia, what we did is we collected content throughout the internet. Most of it comes now from YouTube. And we break down each video that we upload by physical functionality. So if you come to the site, you put your exact movement in, you register, put your exact movement in. Next thing you know, you can go through our database of over 16,000 videos. And next thing you know, you have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 mentors to show you what's possible within your unique world. And also, so that's one of the tips and tricks of the rehabilitative services is to really figure out as much as possible how the program can benefit you, and then actually let it benefit you. Don't be afraid to say, yes, I want to test it out. The worst thing that can happen if you test it out, a special service, is you learn that that didn't work for you, or you learn that it did work for you, but you're not going to know until you try it. If you don't like your caseworker, you can ask for a new one. So many people don't know that. Wherever you're at, really in any state level program, if you do not like your caseworker, ask for a new one. If they say, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen, I'd like to speak with your supervisor. And the supervisor then can reassign you to a new caseworker. And it can be the biggest difference in your quality of care, your quality of services, if you get somebody that works for you. During my time with vocational rehabilitation services, I had many different caseworkers, mainly because it's a big turnover position. So I was in VR for a while because I had to do my undergrad, then law school. So I was in it for a good 7 years. Not everybody needs to be in VR that long. Not everybody wants to go to school that long. They choose not to go to school that long. But I'm a gluten for punishment, so I did do that, and I stuck it out. But during those 7 years, I did have about 5 different caseworkers, and a bunch of those caseworkers were in and out, meaning like they used this as a temporary position within their career, and they moved on to a different type of service afterwards, or a different job position. So that's another big tip and trick of any government program. You do have choices, but you need to be able to speak up for yourself. During my years of trying to figure out employment, another big issue is you need to be able to get the community supports you need to be able to pursue employment, depending on your functionality. If you're a higher level injury like myself or Kenny, life without caregiving, we can't survive without it. But if you're a quadriplegic, there's so many different community support programs that are available that you need to be able to kind of work with the system to be able to get the caregiving you need. A great resource to be able to figure that out so you don't have to do it alone is your Center for Independent Living. And Centers for Independent Living are all across the country. If you Google Center for Independent Living and then your county or your state, it should populate. And usually you just put your zip code and address to find the one that represents your local jurisdiction. And what Centers for Independent Living do is they then can break down and provide all the different types of programs that exist to allow you to live independently and give you options on what to pursue. Oftentimes it's up to you to pursue them, but it's so it's so key to be able to know what the options are and then to be able to pursue it. When you're pursuing these programs, one of the biggest things is being able to get as many friends on your side. And when I talk about friends, the best friends that you can make are your elected representatives. So a lot of people don't know this, but connecting with your representatives, you don't always have to make an ask. You could just treat it as a relationship. So early on in my injury, I reached out to my representatives, whether it's local representatives, state level representatives, or federal level representatives. I think the state level is really your best friends that you can make. But so your state level representatives, usually it's broken down into different districts. So in my district, I have one state senator that represents my district and 3 delegates, which basically is like the House of Representatives. They're congresspersons. But those 3 delegates and that one state senator, I reached out to them in letters saying my story. I have a spinal cord injury. This is my functionality. I'm your constituent. I know you represent us. And I basically just let them know who I am, what my story is. And then, whenever I had issues along the way with getting state resources or community supports or getting denial letters, I always reach out to my elected officials saying, this is what's happening. This is the letter I received. Is this going to be my future? What can you do to help? And I cannot tell you enough how many times the friendships that I built with my elected representatives have opened doors, have broken down barriers. It's just, they're there to help. You voted them in, your community voted them in. They're there to help you and serve as much as they can to improve your quality of life. That being said, they're not there to do everything. This journey that we're on, this employment journey, this life journey, we have to be our own captain of our ship. We dictate what direction we go in, where we're going to go next. But there's so much to be said that we don't have to do it alone. We can have crewmates, we can have friends, we can have family members, we can have caseworkers, we can have elected representatives to help us along our journey. And that's not a weakness to be able to ask for help. It's a strength to know that we don't have to do it alone and that we can get people to get behind us to make life a little bit easier. And it's this injury, the paralysis, is the most difficult and hard injury to ask for. It's the most expensive injury to ask for, but it's a journey that we all can do and live incredibly beautiful, fun, meaningful lives. Yes, they're going to be different, but different is still so much fun and so meaningful. So along all that stuff, I want you to know during your employment journey, during your life journey, you don't have to do it alone. During your employment journey, I want to be a resource for you guys. I can be a one-on-one mentor. I can, when you're ready, when you get employment or before getting employment, we can talk strategies. Kenny as well. His team of advocates have your back. That's why they're doing this. That's why this program today is existing, because people care and we are united when we come together. We are stronger when we come together. So I just want to let you know that, having you find your voice, having you find your wheels and finding your purpose in life, there's still so much that can be done. It's just a matter of you figuring it out and testing the waters out and seeing what works for you and what you want to do. We could talk more about strategies for getting hired, finding jobs. The biggest thing when it comes to becoming employed, and Kenny said this earlier, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's such a big part of becoming employed. Your community, your networks, they're there. Might as well ask. If you don't ask, you'll never receive. And that you can treat your community as your crewmates, as your friends, as whatever you want to look at it as. So what I always tell to people when they're looking to find a job is to communicate with your community, your networks. Let them know that these are your skills, these are your talents, this is your ability to contribute, and this is what you're interested in doing. Do you know of any jobs that are available? Do you know where I could be a perfect fit? I'm ready to work. I'm ready to give it my all, and being able to do that should be one of your first steps in trying to find a job. Always use your community. Always use your network. Secondly, is getting online and getting a good resume put together, figuring that out, and understanding, yes, there's going to be gaps in your resume, but you can fill those gaps in with volunteer work, with contribution. Persons with disabilities are natural problem solvers. Every single day we wake up, we have to figure out how to survive. We have to figure out how we're going to get from A to Z throughout the day. We have to figure out how to manage a team of caregivers. We are natural problem solvers. Natural workers have management skills, have working skills. We really can do it all, given the opportunity to show what we have. So the next thing is going online and putting out resumes. If you want to work for the federal government, there's an incredible opportunity through the Schedule A programming, which basically allows our resumes to get to the top of the stack when it comes to job interviews and job placements. The federal government recognizes that there needs to be more workers with disabilities, and the way that they've done it was basically created a portal through Schedule A to get us to have better opportunities and having more looks at our resumes and who we are within the job process of federal jobs. There's also a lot of online job placement agencies, or if you go to Indeed or any of these other, careerbuilder.com, being able to apply for jobs that are online. I want everybody to think of it this way. It truly is a numbers game. I've heard people, oh, I applied for, these 3 jobs or these 5 jobs. I didn't even hear back, and they quit after putting 5 job resumes out there. That's not the way this works. You've got to put out hundreds of job resumes out there, because the fact is that the way that the job market looks like right now is that there's hundreds of people applying for all these positions. And the more that you apply for, the more opportunity you have for that interview, more opportunity you have to be able to get that next job. But it's so much is a numbers game. And it's just not being afraid to put yourself out there. So much of employment, or just life in general, is having the confidence to put yourself out there and being a little vulnerable. It is scary, but it's incredible what happens when you do put yourself out there and what comes towards you in your future. If you're willing to get yourself out there and and to be able to like take on what the next chapter is in life. You know, so many new things come your way that you wouldn't have had if you didn't try. So try, having a willingness to try, being creative and putting yourself out there. Great things happen. One of the things I do with my foundation, Determined to Heal and Spinalpedia, is we do a Living with Adventurous Wheels program where we take families out of their homes and bring them on adventures. Usually we do it on the East Coast, but we've done some indoor skydiving programs across the country, which I'd love to talk with your chapter about. But what we do is we do all these adventures to get families outside of their comfort zone. And, you know, whether we go adaptive sailing or sit skiing or water skiing, snow skiing, surfing, we get people in their elements out of their comfort zone. And it just it teaches you with these new opportunities, these new experiences, that life is possible if you're willing to put yourself out there. It's going to look different, but most anything is still possible. And so often when I do these adventures, I'm usually the most paralyzed person doing it. And I know for a lot of my friends that, or a lot of the people that we take out, it kicks them in the butt. If Josh is doing this, so can I. And I'm just telling you, we all can do it. If we have a strong mind and a willingness to get out there, we can make this happen. Our paralysis, it does make it a little challenging, but it's worth the challenge to figure it out and to go out there. I know a lot of people, there's a lot of mistakes that can be made along the way when it comes to pursuing employment. And that's why the WIPA program, the Ticket to Work program, the Vocational Rehabilitative Services, it's so important to ask the questions, to not make the same mistakes. So I've had a lot of friends over the years that have gone to work and did not report their earnings to Social Security. And you have to report those earnings. And if you do report the earnings, eventually they'll stop your Social Security benefits. But if you don't report your earnings, Social Security will eventually figure it out. But if you're basically collecting Social Security benefits plus working, Social Security wants their money back for you double collecting over a certain period of time. If you join the Ticket to Work program, you get 9 trial work month periods, which basically during those 9 trial months, you can continue earning your Social Security benefits and your earnings from work to test out if it works for you. But after that time, you have to stop collecting Social Security benefits. And if you continue, Social Security is going to want their money back. So I've actually known people that didn't disclose and report their earnings. The next thing you know, they owed $40,000, $50,000. I even known somebody that collected for 6 years and owed $70,000 in overpayments to Social Security. And we don't want that ever to happen. Having a good benefits counselor can make sure that you don't make those mistakes. The WIPA program and the Ticket to Work program are completely free of charge. Social Security will pay those program employment networks to take care of you. It's just a matter of being willing to enroll in the program and benefit from those services. When you're at work, I could talk so much about requesting reasonable accommodations. There's so many different types of accommodations that you can request that are reasonable, that can give you the opportunity to show your skills in the workplace, or to be able to have the breaks you need to not tire out, or there's so many things that can fall within the reasonable accommodation. And people get scared about making those requests. But accommodation is not a weakness. Accommodation creates an even playing field that allows you to give it your all and show your skills and talents in the same level as any of your other coworkers. It's just you might have to do it a little differently. You might need a different setup, different workspace, different piece of technology to give you the opportunity to show what you have and what your skills are. There's also a lot of people ask during the interview stage about disability disclosure. Do I say if I'm do I have a disability to a company? There's nothing to be said that you have to say that you have a disability. That's one thing. The only time that you have to do disclosure disability is if you are requesting a reasonable accommodation. But disclosing your disability in some instances can be advantageous. It can really work to your advantage to be able to disclose it. Other situations, it might not. And it's on a case-by-case basis on what your comfort level is with your disability and what the position that you're trying to actually apply for. So that's really, I think, disability disclosure is really more on a case-by-case basis, and it needs to be a discussion that you have with yourself, with your family, with a job mentor like myself, to be able to like discuss what is the strategy moving forward. Key is, let's land this job, let's get this job, but really whatever it takes to get it. So I guess I can go on and on about all things disability employment, but I want to open up the floor and just answer questions. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk. This is the time to talk about this. So let's make this happen.
Awesome, Josh. Thank you so much for this powerful talk and just being willing to share your experience and strength and hope with everybody. I did see a couple of questions that popped through. Jill was asking if you can request a caseworker by name. Is that something that's possible?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
What's the worst that can happen is you get denied it. But I think if you know other people in your area that have a caseworker that's really like an all-star caseworker for them, I would want that for myself as well. So the worst that can happen is that the supervisor could say that, I'm sorry, this person's casework load is full. At this moment, we can't get anybody else. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to get on a wait list for that person, because there is a lot of new clients that coming out, cases being closed because people either become employed or stop working altogether or stop looking for work. Okay. So I think that's a great point that Jill has.
Okay. Okay, we've got about 8 minutes left for more Q&A, and I saw Wanda jumped in with, how do you spell the WIPA program? Is that the one that's specific to Maryland, or is that the Ticket to Work through Washington State?
It's throughout the country. It's for persons with Social Security benefits. And whether you have SSDI or SSI, you can get a WIPA counselor, and it's WIPA.
Okay. Okay. It looks like
the Ticket to Work program is only for SSDI clients. But that being said, SSI client persons can still get their benefits counseling through WIPA.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, and Jamie Moore's got the question of how much income to report to Social Security. You know, and we're going to have all your information available that we'll send out to all participants for your job coaching and mentoring and all that stuff. So you can follow up with them too. But yeah, something short that you can tell them.
Well, usually if you're earning over, I believe it's $850 a month, $850 or $900, you need to be disclosing that, because that's considered substantial gainful income. So, but then with all that being said, all the programs have asset limits. So, you know, whether you have to be within that $2,000 limit or $3,000 limit based on your state's Medicaid, you have to be able to stay within those limits to keep your Medicaid services and to keep your Social Security benefits oftentimes. So, you know, whenever you start earning any money, you really, really need to make sure that you get connected with someone that's knowledgeable to help you navigate it. If all this stuff is manageable and it can be navigated, it's just a matter of coming up with a game plan that works for you. So talking with WIPA, talking with Ticket to Work, talking with your vocational caseworker, there is plans that can be put in place for you to answer your questions. Even calling Social Security Administration, you can get answers from them as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Selena jumped in with a question on have you noticed, or do you know if the current move to virtual online jobs and all that stuff, is that increasing employment opportunities for the disabled community or hindering it, you think?
It is increasing opportunities. And it's making it easier for many people that have issues with work when it comes to transportation. Transportation is a huge barrier for persons with disabilities to get to and from work, get to and from work safely. But, you know, from a standpoint of being able to work from your home, I think COVID has taught us very well that we can be very, very productive as a society with employment.
Right.
And it's I think, you know, being able to work from home is extremely important for so many different people that want to work from home. But at the same time, I think it's so important that we do work in the office space, those that can, that are willing to work in the office space, because in order to let the community know, the workforce know, our colleagues know, you know, being able to wheel up to the table and being able to be seen in the workforce with disabilities is what's going to be so important to changing the disability employment narrative. If we're all in our homes and never being seen, but yes, we might be heard through the phone, but like right now, looking at you and me, I guess I can see some technology around us that shows that something's going on, but our reels are never going to be shown through Zoom.
Right.
So I think it's very, very, very important to be able to work in the workforce on site or through virtually. Both are options.
Right. No, I totally agree. You know, yeah, you see our videos and you wouldn't know any different from half the people that are going to be on Zoom calls anyways. And, you know, one piece of assistive technology is maybe the only thing, you know, getting in your way between your full potential. And yeah, no, I just really appreciate all this stuff that you've shared so far. Joe Preddy was asking, are these agencies and programs available to people over 65?
Say that one more time.
Are these like programs and agencies available for people over the age of 65?
So I don't know the answer to Ticket to Work or WIPA. I know that your Medicaid Buying program opened up to over 65. That's something I would need to do research on and make sure I get an accurate answer with.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions right now for Josh? You know, I'd like for those, you know, I've got one like for those who do kind of wind up in these programs and find themselves getting a job. What should they do next?
So what they should do next is connect with me. The second that you become employed, my nonprofit has partnered with a national employment network that helps persons with disabilities, workers with disabilities, create custom game plans of knowing every single one of your options, whether it's through the Medicaid Buying program, 1619B program. There's all these different programs that exist to be able to get you to employment and know what it is that you want to pursue. So when you have options, you then have power to decide what direction you want to go in. So working with myself as your one-on-one job mentor, so I've partnered with them, and basically you get kind of a package deal with them taking care of you from benefits, but then I can help with reasonable accommodations, how to ask for pay raises, how to work with colleagues that are providing kind of headaches for you, or just communication with colleagues in general with a significant disability. So Kenny, we can provide your group with a link for them to sign up for the free one-on-one job mentoring and benefits counseling and get matched up and taken care of as they become employed.
That is awesome, man. Yeah, Josh, I just really appreciate you jumping on and giving everybody this great information and being willing to you know, share this journey that you've.
I just want everybody. Thanks, Kenny. I want everybody to know that they're not alone in this journey. Work is possible. Work provides so much purpose, and it's just being able to have an income, what that can go towards your quality of life in your future. It's just it changes everything to be able to have that going towards your everyday life. We do have expensive lifestyles, expensive injuries, and the more we can invest in ourselves, the more that we have option-wise for our future. So, but thanks, Kenny.